Mark here from Mark 2.0. We are just thrilled to have one of my favorite actors, Hal Williams, 227, The Sinbad Show. That's where I remember you most from, but Dukes of Hazzard, Kung Fu, you name it. You have a list a mile long. We are just so thrilled to have you on, Hal. Welcome to the
Seriously, Hal.
podcast.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me and staying on top of my career.
It's an honor. Let's throw it to Brian.
Well, you know, I grew up in the 70s. I grew up in the 70s, and there are just some faces that I recognize, and your face got around quite a bit. As Mark was just sitting over here, he only just scratched the surface of what you've done, and I think our show is a good reference for young actors and actors who are doing other things. And I just want to say thank you for being here. It's a treat, and you are probably one of the more accomplished people we've had on. So Hal, thank you. It is a true honor to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start a little bit into your past. Can I ask, so you're now in California, living in LA, right?
No, I mean, I live in the California desert. I work in LA. Or any place else they pay me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And smart.
Yeah.
I live in the Palm Springs area.
Where were you born?
I'm born in Columbus, Ohio. That's my hometown. Home of the Ohio State University.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
My mom was born in Ohio. That's great. Yeah, I have a grandmother in Ohio. So where did you went to school and grew up out there?
Yeah, I grew up there, lived there my whole life until 1968, when I thought it was a time to pursue a dream I'd had. And like they say, go west, young man. So I went west for 3 years, and I've been here 52.
Wow.
So can I ask a little about your parents? Where were they born?
Oh, my parents were born in, my father and mother both were born in Columbus, Ohio. You know, my family is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Wow.
And I had never been there until about 15, 18 years ago. There's a National Black Theater Festival that occurs every other year. And I went there. My great-grandmother who raised me talked about Winston-Salem all the time. That's where the cigarettes were made originally, the Winston cigarette, the Salem cigarettes, and all of that history. And I went there and found it a lovely place to be from, and found a whole lot of things about it. I didn't get to trace any family ties or anything, but I still go there. I was there this summer, first time since the pandemic.
I have and it's from Columbus. I have so much family from there, and I've never really visited because everyone just migrated out to here. But
Yeah.
Something tells me I still need to go visit out there. Say, when you were growing up, did you go to college or?
Yeah, I attended Ohio State University, and then
Wow.
I got discouraged because I was a commercial arts student. So I transferred to the Columbus School of Art and Design, and I went there for 2 years. And then I got married, fell in love, got married, started raising a family, got into social work and working with dependent, neglected children, and became a juvenile correctional officer. Did a whole lot of things.
Congrats.
But I'd always had a passion. I grew up in movie houses as a kid. As a newsboy on Saturdays, I was always at the Empress Theater, the Lincoln Theater, to see the 3 films they had on Saturday afternoon before I went to my paper route. So I see old films right now that I saw when I was a kid. I still know some of the dialogue, you know. That's where my interest first peaked from.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I also was an usher, and I also had a paper route, so we have a lot in common. So, but of course, they were playing Goodfellas when I was an usher. But still, I loved, you know, sneaking into every door. I just loved being there and being in the movies. Is that when you thought you wanted to do stuff like that? Do you think that sparked your first interest there, or what?
Well, I never thought, living in Ohio at that time, and the only films I'd really seen with people of color in were cowboy movies and the Indians and stuff, you know. And there were a few Black films. Oscar Micheaux, who was a terrific Black filmmaker back in the early 30s and 40s. He made a few films. I saw them, Cabin in the Sky and things like that. But I never thought I'd really get a chance to be in front of a camera. There was no reason for me to do that. And so I pursued a lot of other things. But when finally my marriage shut down and I was working for the poverty program, the government poverty program, and I was sitting one day, I was very unhappy. My parents thought I was doing very well, wearing a suit and tie and having a caseload and all that madness. And I said, what's the one thing I wish I had tried to pursue? And I watched I Spy with Bill Cosby one night.
Oh, yeah.
And Jim Brown was on there. Jim Brown was on there. That was a show about the tennis players with Robert Culp and Bill Cosby. And then the next week, Muhammad Ali was on one. I said, you know what? I can go out and try anyway.
Yeah.
I said, I can always come back to Columbus. So everybody thought I'd lost my mind. And I got packed up. My parents took my kids and waited for me to get to California and get established. And I sold and rented out my house, sold all the furniture and everything. One Wednesday night in 1968, I got in my car with a bucket of Colonel Sanders chicken and 2 pistols and got in my car and headed west for California. And I was so anxious to get there and so afraid. I got there at the California state line on Friday night about 9 o'clock. I called my mom. I said, I'm in California. I'm not in Los Angeles, but I'm in California. And that's where it went. Then went on. And I had a couple of friends that I had gone to school with their brother. These 2 girls lived there. I stayed with them until I found an apartment. I had come out the year before and applied for jobs with California Youth Authority. And I had been on an old postal register for a long time. So I activated that. Both of them had called me at the same time. And that's why I came at that particular time in August. And I came out and started to work nights. So I'd have my days free to audition and stuff like that. And started to join theater groups, started to watch the Hollywood Reporter and Variety for auditions and things like that. And I did a play, ended up doing a play with an old cowboy star, Don Murray, and a black guy named Otis Young had a series called The Outcast, first Salt and Pepper Cowboy thing. And he was doing a play called Right On Brother. I went and auditioned for it, got cast in the chorus. One of the guys got fired in the lead. I took over his part because I memorized all the male characters in the play. And one night a guy came backstage and wanted to know, did I have an agent? Had I ever done commercials? And I said, no. So he said, come to my office. So I went to his office the next day. My car broke down. I called this friend of mine, a girl I was doing a play with. She drove me over there. The owner, Herb Tannen, told his agent, said, well, we got a guy who looks like him. But at that time, they only have two of each type. He said, but send him out and see what happens. They sent me out. I got 3 national commercials on my first year.
Oh, congrats.
American Airlines, Hunt Snack Pack, and I forget what the other one was, but I got all 3 of them. They signed me. They signed, and the girl that drove me there, when they brought me out of the office, they said, who is this? I said, that's my friend. We're doing a play up in Hollywood, off Hollywood, like they say, off Broadway. And girls with naturals were rare at that time. And she had a very beautiful natural. They hired her on the spot. Her name was Dwan Smith. They said, you're getting a job before me. So things just started to move on from there, but I worked nights at the post office and worked nights for California Youth Authority and pursued acting during the day until I really got things going in my career as far as getting guest stars on different shows.
So from 1968, how long did that take to where you were just grinding away? And then,
well, I'd say I gave myself 3 years. 1960, 1971, I had 3 recurring roles: one on Sanford and Son, one on Harry O, and one on the Waltons.
Wow, can't get much bigger than that.
yeah.
Look. So I said, well, I guess gonna be here for 3 more years.
Wow. So already in 3 years, you have 3 solid jobs, and everybody's, they're not laughing anymore. They're taking you very seriously at this point, are they not?
Well, they didn't, the thing was they were all recurring roles, which means you're not on every week, but they never conflicted. So almost every week I was working, right up until I left Sanford after 5 years and went to do an English adaptation of an English show called On the Rocks, which was a prison comedy that I did. was named after a show called Porridge in England, which is an English word for jail. It was a jailhouse comedy. And that lasted a year. ABC picked us up and then canceled us because they said PTAs and different family groups were protesting the fact that we were making jail look like a funny place to be.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that went on. Huh. That is fascinating.
yeah, so you know, it's been quite a deal. It's been quite a deal.
No
And
kidding.
worked very hard at it and continue to do so.
That was great how you just kind of, it's like a screenplay on itself, how you just decided to do it. And everyone was just like looking at you like you're nuts, and you packed it up and you just took it all out there, family and all, and hit it out of the park. That, you should write a book about that or something.
Well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Good.
Working
That's
on
great.
the memoir. It's
I
a
would-
work in progress. It's going to take me a while, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how it comes off.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, that's fine. So what was it? You started 9 primetime series, right? As a guest star.
No.
Which was the first one?
Well, 9 series I was involved in either as a regular or recurring role.
Yes.
The first 3 was Sanford and Son,
Mhm.
the Waltons, and Harry O.
Mhm.
Then I went to On the Rocks. Then I went Private Benjamin. Then I went to 227. Then I went to the Sinbad Show, and then there's another one I'm not getting. But all in all, there's 9 all in all that are running in reruns now.
Mhm.
So the 3 that I starred in were Private Benjamin, 227, and On the Rocks.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of shows as a guest star, and they made me a recurring star. Moonlight was one about the vampire and stuff. I did a recurring role on that, but then the writer's strike came along and they canceled the series. So it's been my luck to get jobs, but jobs
Mhm.
are fleeting. They come and they go.
Just
Sure.
never know. Just never know. That I'm learning that. I hear these stories like suddenly something happens out of nowhere, and then something disappears out of nowhere equally as easily. It's I saw that you were on the first TJ Hooker.
Oh yeah, I did the pilot for TJ Hooker with
Yeah.
Bill Shatner. Yeah, I sure did. That was an interesting thing. I didn't know what was going to happen with it as a series, but I did the pilot and I did one more episode of it, and then they got Adrian Zed and a couple other people in there to be the regular cast, But that was great working with Bill Shatner, the man of space with a
Yeah.
top.
They sure shot him up there, didn't they? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So,
Well, would you go out? Would you go up into
I do a lot
space?
of theater too. Huh?
Would you go up into space if they offered that to
No,
you?
I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet.
Me neither.
Smart.
Me
No,
neither.
Smart move. Yeah.
It'd be my luck. They try to keep me up
Oh
there.
yeah. What was Kung Fu like? Because that was such
Oh.
an iconic show, and I heard it got canceled because there was too many injuries, not because of the ratings.
No, Kung Fu, I don't know about it. I never heard that, but Kung Fu was great for me because my agent at the time, Nancy, had pitched me to them to play this character, Caleb Brown. And they wanted Lou Gossett, guys that had the Carl Weathers, guys that had a name. And they knew me primarily from doing a lot of comedy stuff. I've done a lot of comedy stuff. People don't even think that about me being dramatic stuff till we get on a show or something. We're talking like we're talking today. So she pitched me to go in to see it and to be seen. And they reluctantly allowed me to come. So in the business, we have a saying when you're going on audition, take the room. When you go in the door, take the room. Be personable, be pleasant, be yourself, and then explode into the character unannounced. Well, I went in and I scared the hell out of them. I scared them so Jerry Thorpe, who was the executive producer, so badly that, but fortunately good too, they hired me right away. And I did 2 episodes. David was wonderful to work with. I did 2 episodes. I got a development deal with Warner Brothers and pitched it to ABC to have my own show about a black family in the Old West. But this was pre-Roots. So it wasn't able to be done because the network didn't think that the large audience in this country would follow a show about a black in the Old West. So they didn't do it, but I got a good development deal out of it. When you got a development deal, they got to pay you where you work or not. So they put me in a lot of different projects just to keep me working. They weren't going to pay me to be at home. I remember the movie Skin Game with James Garner and Lou Gossett. Well, I did it with Larry Hagman and Lou Gossett and played a guy in Skin Game. So a lot of things came along out of that venture. But David and I became fast friends, and he was just a terrific guy to work with.
I can imagine. What about Dukes of Hazzard? You were
Oh,
great
that
in
was
that
fun.
one.
That was a fun show. That was a fun show. I think it happened around Christmas time. And I went there and I was there and I got to be involved with the cast, the crew, the party, and the whole shot. And it was great to play that character in that kind of show. But see, that's what spurred me in my career, is to not get pigeonholed, which is what they do intentionally or unintentionally. If they see you in too many of one kind of genre of film, they think about you just for that. And I remember one time I was furious. My agent had pitched me for some dramatic show, and the casting director said, "Oh, Hal Williams, I know him. He does comedy." And I exploded. I said, "No, Hal Williams does not do comedy. Hal Williams is a trained professional. Hal Williams is an actor. You show us what the project is, we will adjust."
What's the most dramatic thing you think you've done?
The most dramatic thing?
The one where you had to be more drama than anything.
Roots 2. You probably didn't know I was in Roots 2, The Next Generation.
No.
I played Alex Haley's grandfather, Alec Haley. And Dorian Harewood played my son, who was the father of Alex Haley later on. But I was a sharecropper in the South. And my son wanted to go to college, and I thought it was foolish. It was just 2 days work in that monumental series with me, Dorian Harewood, and Ruby Dee in that one scene. And we shot that scene all day long.
Oh, really?
And that's the best work, aside from the Waltons. The Waltons, for me, was one of the best ways for me to show my dramatic talent, because the producer, writer, and creator, Earl Hamner, always came to me and paid me the greatest compliment by telling me, he said, "I don't really know." He said, "I grew up in West Virginia, and I knew a lot of Black people, but I don't really know how to write for this character. Can you help me?" That's the first time a producer ever came to me and asked me about me as a man of color, how to portray somebody in writing.
Smart.
And that was beautiful. That was wonderful. And we just had our 45th Waltons anniversary in New Jersey about 5 years ago. We're almost ready for 50 now, but Richard Thomas is starring as Adams Fitch in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow. What was it like, the set of the Waltons? What did it look like? Was it?
Well, if you want to see it, go down to Charlottesville, West Virginia, because they put it together and took it down there and made a museum out of it right across the street from the original Walton family home, which is Earl Hamner. It was to go there, it was like I was in their family. Right now, when we have reunions, they never exclude me from anything. Me and Lynn Hamilton, who played my wife. To go there and work I became a part of that cast, and the cast became a family on and off the set. Michael Lerner, Ralph Waite. Ralph Waite, I joined his theater, LA Actors Theater in LA, became very renowned. And he did a film called On the Nickel about what's going on right now, the homeless in Skid Row and alcoholism and all of that. And Ralph was a dear friend of mine right until the day he passed away. It was just a wonderful thing to be in that show with all those people, and so warm and welcoming.
What was one of the more challenging things you've done?
Oh, I don't know. Well, probably something on the stage, probably a theater production
Mm.
that involves me being weak. If I have to play something that's really just the opposite, and any of us have to play something that's just the opposite of what we really are, I'll tell you what's really hard work. And even though people think true actors are the dramatic actors, it's very hard to do comedy
Mhm.
because comedy is based on timing. And if you're an ensemble cast like 227 or Sanford or the Jeffersons or something like that, it only works when the timing works. And it's very hard. Because what you have to remember, in most of the comedy series I was in, I was the straight guy. I wasn't a clown. I was the stabilizing force in the family in 227.
Yeah.
You know, in Sanford,
Right.
I was the straight cop. Howard was the guy who was crazy. You know, it's always been there. That's very hard to do, to work against type. You know, that's what's challenging.
Yeah.
That's
What
an
was-
awesome perspective. Yeah.
What was 227 like? I mean, I don't know of a show where the cast got along so well and worked so well together. That must have been just such a thrill for you.
Well, we did. I come right out of Private Benjamin, and I wasn't really going to do, I wanted to take a little break. I'd gotten to that level where I could take a break and not be really hunting work. And my mentor, Edmund Cambridge from the Negro Ensemble Company in New York, was directing a play called 227 at Marla Gibbs Theater over on Vermont. So he called me up and said, my son, I need you to come over and help me out. There's a young man playing beside opposite Marla, and he's afraid of her. He's intimidated by her because he hasn't had much experience. He said, so if you come over and get us started, then when we catch us on, I'll let you go. I came over reluctantly because he's my mentor, and I got in the show and started doing it. The young man got out all together, and we started doing the play. Well, one night, Scoey Mitchell, who was an older Black actor who had been a comic in a series called Barefoot in the Park, he brought Norman Lear and Brandon Tartikoff to the theater one night to see the show. And like they say, the rest is history. They fell in love with the show, and after the performance that night, they said, this has got to be a series.
Wow.
This has got to be a series. And that's how it got started. And so then we got Jack Kay from a daytime soap. We got Elena Reed from back in New York, and Marla insisted on me being the husband, and Regina being the daughter, because Regina and I both had light colored eyes. She said, we look like a trio for real. So that's how we got off the ground. And we looked out for each other. It was a very talented cast, and we all got along very well. It was 5 years of heaven.
It sounds like you really got it going. I mean, they made you come down there. That guy ended up quitting, and then they saw what you had done, and they said, we need a series right now. So I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit here. It sounds
No,
like
not
you
at all,
really
Hal.
hit that one out of the park, Hal.
Look, you know, it just goes to show you. I mean, you never know what's coming. You know, I wasn't really looking for anything, but look what I found. Look what fell in my lap. Just because somebody made a phone call and asked me to come and help them out. You know, so
Way to
you
run
just
with the
never
ball.
know. You know, you never know where things are going to go.
And you've also done voiceover work, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did. I used to do a lot of voiceovers. I did the voice of Denzel's father in the movie Flight. If you look in the credits, you'll see my name up there. That's interesting and quick work. And I did some of these game shows, video game shows. I did some voices in them. Adolph Caesar, who was a fine actor from the Negro Ensemble Company, he made a secondary career for himself and made a lot of money just doing voices. And it's fun. I mean, you have to adapt to the big screen. You go to a sound stage, they play everything back. You put on the headphones and you lip sync right along into the rhythm. And it looks like you were right there saying it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I bet that's kind of fun to do. Is that enjoyable work? Is it tedious? Voiceover
No,
work and stuff?
yeah, it's enjoyable because it's fun. I mean,
I would have
you
fun
don't have
doing
to
that.
worry about, you can always say, cut, stop, and come back and start over again, you know.
True.
Yeah, good
It's not
point.
it's not like the stage where you're stuck out there on the stage. If you go up, somebody will have to help you get back on track, but you're out there. You can't say cut and come
Yeah.
back, you know, like the.
I saw you
fun.
did the video game Disintegration in 2020. You were one of the
Yeah,
voices.
I did that. Yeah, I did
Really?
one of the voices in. I did two voices in that, and I never had seen it, but I remember they have one of those conventions here in LA, and it did very well there. But when I did it over in Burbank, one half of a day we worked on that. They said that they were going to plan to do some more in the future, and I guess they will. That I didn't even know how lucrative that was and how popular that whole thing, that they had conventions in big cities about those things.
Oh, the video game industry surpassed the movie industry a long time ago, I think, and it's just going to get bigger. How did that come to be? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. How did that come to be?
How did you get that role?
Yeah.
I have a voiceover agent. I have a
Wow.
theatrical agent. I have a theatrical agent who covers films and TV, and also plays. And I have a talented AVO talent agency that's voiceovers and commercials.
Wow.
So they pitched me, and I did a demo from home. Everything's done from home now, and sent it in, and they hired me.
Mhm.
So what was the Clint Eastwood movie, The Rookie, like?
The Rookie. Oh, it was great. Well, working with,
I love Clint Eastwood, by the way.
I worked with Clint Eastwood. I worked with Tom Selleck. I worked with James Brown. I worked with some of the biggest names in television.
Seriously.
One of my first jobs, the great John Wayne.
Wow.
One of the first jobs I ever had.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
It
please
was
tell
a
that in
CBS
much detail.
No, it was a CBS special. If you look it up, it was 1971, called Sing Out, Sweet Land. It was a CBS 2-hour special on how the United States of America was founded with the 13 colonies and all this stuff, how it grew into 48 states and all that kind of thing. I auditioned for it, and I went to and did it on the sound stage in Burbank. And one of these guys who plays in all the old guy that always plays in all the John Wayne movies, little old guy, they call him Mose much of the time. He said, "How would you like to meet the Duke?" And I said, "I'd love to meet the Duke." So he took me, John Wayne's trailer was on the stage. He had this Silver Bullet trailer on the stage. Took me down there, took me in, and I met him. I met the great John Wayne. My scene was not with him. I was out in the middle of a field. They had all these cutouts of the states of America on the stage. This was on a CBS special. I was standing in the middle of a field out in Idaho and cutting wheat and said, and I announced, the great state of Idaho is proud to become part of the United States of America. That was it.
Wow.
Great. That's still something.
Wow, you got to meet John Wayne.
Man, but working on that, Clint has a wry sense of humor, but he's great to work with and easy to work with. He likes a nice set. He's got a family crew that works with him on every film. It's just about the same people all the time in the same capacity. And when he says, he doesn't say, okay, action, cut, and all that stuff. He'll get the lights right, get everything right. And he said, you hear this voice say, let's begin. And we do it, and we do it, and we do it. And if he doesn't say anything, that means do it again. They do it, and they do it. And then you hear, okay, that's enough of that. And that's the end of it, But he was very personable, easy to talk to, and just a joy to work with. I would look forward to working with him anytime. Same way with Tom Selleck. I did the very last Magnum PI called Resolutions, a two-parter.
Wow.
And I was a vet in a wheelchair called Uncle Dave. And he's trying to find out how his wife, who had been searching for her, has come back to Honolulu some kind of way, and somebody's trying to kill her. And there's a tape of something. He brings it to the studio where I'm a disc jockey, and gets me to listen to the tape and try to pick out what some of the sounds were. But anyway, I spent a week there in Hawaii, and on Sunday mornings, he liked to play volleyball. And the suite I was staying in was on the 17th floor, right above the volleyball court. And I heard them guys down there playing. So later on, I went downstairs and I was sitting on the beach. And all of a sudden, it felt like somebody was sitting next to me. I turned, and it was him. He had finished his game. He was sitting there chatting,
Mm.
and it's just like we're chatting now. Just a regular guy. And he was telling me about the series is over. He was going to start a series called Banana something and start doing movies. And like I say, the rest is history. He went on from there.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
James Arness. I did the very last episode of Gunsmoke called Hard Labor. And Matt Dillon goes to a funny town, and the judge there doesn't like him and puts him on a chain gang. Well, I'm the guy to cook on the chain gang that puts everybody in chains and everything. I worked with James Arnett for the whole week. We had a big shootout in the Long Branch Saloon. And at the end, when the scene ends, if you ever see the rerun, we're on a wagon going out of town. He leans over to me and he says, "Hey, Hal, we've enjoyed having you here. How'd you like to come back next year if we come back?"
Mm.
I said, "I love it." And lo and behold, they got canceled.
Oh, geez, yeah. Another one was Night Court. You were pretty strict in that role as a bailiff.
Well, they tried to copy they tried to copy the DI role in Private Benjamin and adapt it into the Night Court bailiff. That's why
Ah.
they had a special uniform made for me and the whole shot, you know. And that was fun too, because the crew again welcomed me there and treated me like I'd been there the whole time. That was good. That was very good.
And that was
Enjoyed it.
another show like 227 that stood the test of time and was on for like 8-9 seasons.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It kept it on a long time. And but you know, the key is in the writing. The key is in the writing with all this stuff. If you got good writing and we can bring what you write and put it up on the screen for people to see, you got a hit.
Mhm.
You got a hit as long as you keep that formula going. And that's what's important. So today, a lot of things don't last because the writing doesn't hold. The writing doesn't hold up.
Hmm. Do you think that's what happened with the Sinbad show? And explain your story on how you met Sinbad early on and then you go to work with him, you know, when early in his career.
Well, I was doing a telethon for PBS or one of those stations how they raise money and everything.
There's some you
When I
don't see
walked in-
anymore.
Yeah. When I walked into the studio, this young man runs over and grabs me, shakes my hand and all this kind of stuff. And I said, "Hey man, nice to meet you." He introduced himself as Sinbad. And we sat there and talked and everything. And then I didn't see him again for a long time. And then a casting director that I knew, Eileen Knight, called me up one day down in Palm Springs and said, "Hal, can you come up here?" He said, "Sinbad's got a series and we need a real actor to play his father." So we've seen a lot of people. "Would you get in your car?" So I got in my car, and then 2 hours later, I was up in the Valley at the CBS Studio Center, auditioning to play his father in a thing. And the minute he saw me, he remembered me from that day in PBS fundraiser. And when I got out of the office, there were 2 other guys sitting out there waiting. Eileen Knight said, "Hal, do you have to go back to the desert right away?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, hang around for a bit. Don't leave right away." I hung around, and then about an hour later, she came out. "You can go now." Said, "We'll be talking to your agent." That's how I got in the Sinbad show.
Oh,
And ironically, a girl I grew up with, who had become a star in jazz, ended up playing my wife in that show. And that's the jazz singer we just lost, Nancy Wilson.
hmm.
And I grew up with her in Columbus.
Wow,
Wow.
that is a fascinating story. He's running up to meet you, and then later you don't even know you're headed toward an audition, and that's just an amazing story. What a coincidence.
He comes down to the desert, to the casinos, and does his show right now. And every time he does, he called me up, "Hey, Pop." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm leaving you 2 seats at the door. Come on up." And I go up and see him. You know,
Ah,
Yeah, I saw him in 2020 out here at the Improv, and he was just, you can tell he's down to earth, a great family guy,
Oh,
just
yeah.
hilarious
Oh.
too.
he's great. He's great. We're all pulling for him now. You know, he had a stroke.
Oh, did he?
And,
Okay.
Yeah, and we're all pulling for him now, but he's coming along very well. He's doing very well, and she'll be back on the board soon.
oh, bless his heart.
Yeah.
So-
definitely.
Is there any other things in your career you might want to share with us that we weren't really, one of the good stories you like to tell?
Oh, no, it's all been good.
Yeah.
I think of it this way. For me, to grow up the way I did, for me to get the nerve to try what I did when I did. I would not try today what I tried back then, but everything was perfect for the way I did it when I did it. It wouldn't work now. It's because of the industry, because back in that day, we only had 3 networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, and films were MGM and 20th Century Fox. Look at all the cable outlets and markets we have, Hulu and Netflix and all this stuff we got going now, all the opportunities there are now, so many opportunities now that it's just it's overwhelming. The chances of you making it, the competition is so heavy now because everybody it looks like, I know it's not true, but everybody that I see in something and it's about to retire or change venues, what's the first thing they say? Oh, you know what, Charlie, I think I'm gonna try some acting. And they do. And they go out, and next thing you know, you see them in something. They make good or bad, they make it, I took a heck of a chance. I didn't tell anybody but my parents where I was going and what I was going to do. Because I knew people, the guys I grew up with and people like that would have said, oh, he's lost his mind and so when the 3 years I gave myself, when I came back to Columbus, all my friends and the guys, they wanted to know how that happened. What made me want to do that? I'd never talked about it or nothing like that, and it's just like I said, that for me, looking back on it now, that's part of the thing I'm working on in the memoirs.
Wow.
That's going to be a good read. That's going to be a good. So now you've got your podcast. What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, we did 12. Well, because I'm not an activist per se, but I love this country and I love everybody in it. And I think I don't want to get political, we're on some dangerous paths these days. And there's some things that are heading toward destroying our way of life in this country, our democracy and everything. And I don't think people are really paying attention how serious it is. So I speak out pretty much most of the time and say what's on my mind. And since I checked with my manager and said, what about if I use one of this podcast thing? How's it work? And I get to say some of the things I want to say, and they won't cut me off right away.
Good point.
So that's what led to it. And also education for some of the young people, because we talked about many topics, about music, about religion, about politics, about war, about race relations, about everything. It's interesting. You came out of ideas. So we did 12, it's kind of a pilot series to see if any sponsors came along or got interested in it. And if you go on YouTube now and look up Manifested Entertainment, Hal Hit List, then it pops up. That's on all of the podcast systems, Spotify and all of them. You'll see me and my co-host, and we're all working, Charlotte and I are working to try and influence people's ideas, minds, goals, and make them become more aware and hopefully make things better all around.
My heart is feeling really good right now.
Oh yeah,
Hal, because we don't run a political show here, but let's just say I just fell in love with you, something like that. Okay,
exactly. Hal.
And so what you're doing is huge and necessary, and thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. We will. Yeah. We will. So we'd like to promote that as much as we can with your permission. And I'm definitely going to tune in too.
Oh yeah.
And I don't have a lot of time, but I am now dying to hear what you got to say.
Sure.
And I'm just really impressed with you and your career, and you have just like such a warm heart, and you're such a good person, and you're now mentoring people. You're very impressive, Hal. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. And you're still acting, right? Because I've seen you in recent projects.
Yeah, I just did the Ted Danson show, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, and, yeah, I saw that episode. It was great.
I auditioned for a lot of anything that they come up with. I got a bad habit though. I just want to get paid.
I love it.
Well, things are so darn expensive, aren't they, moving forward? There's money out there. They printed plenty of it, so you should get it. There's
Yeah.
plenty for you.
I get my share anyway, but no,
Yeah.
I love this business. And fortunately, I'm in a profession, you don't have to retire. You just play what you are. And I tell people all the time, be yourself. Everybody else is already taken.
Mm.
And we have a lot of people looking for direction, a lot of young actors here. And I loved what you said about take the room. Is that what kind of advice you would give them? Get in there and that was awesome.
Smart.
Because otherwise, I learned early on, you will go in that room, and if you don't get the part, you will beat yourself up and beat yourself up. And it dawned on me finally that after a couple of years, my not getting that part had nothing to do with whether or not I was qualified, talented enough, or right on the money with the portrayal. There's a million reasons other than that I didn't get that role. And I said, from that point on, the business is, you got to love the business because it's a business on rejection. So when I go in a room and I come out, I leave it in the room. And if I don't get the part, I said, well, I didn't lose a part. They lost me.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson. Great lesson. And I'm sure it's going to go far on this channel. Hal, thanks again for being here. I think
Thanks
we've taken
so
enough of your
This
time.
was an honor, Hal.
It truly
Thank
was.
you much. Good
Thanks a
luck
lot.
to you. Continue
Thank
success.
you. You come
Thanks
back
a lot.
again, please.
Yeah, definitely.